Hello everyone and welcome to i-nastava. My name is Ankica Šarić and I'm going to be your teacher today. This is an English lesson for the third grade high school students. And in today's lesson we are going to talk about chocolate and sustainability. In this lesson you're going to design a comic strip about the history of chocolate. You're going to write haiku, also inspired by chocolate. You're going to give an oral presentation about the production of chocolate. And last but not least, you're going to learn about chocolate sustainability. For this lesson, you will need your notebook, something to write with, and a smartphone or a laptop with internet connection. In order to do some exercises, you will have to pause the video. When you see the pause button on the screen, it will be your signal to pause the recording in order to do some exercises. Our first task is a simple warm-up activity. We are going to revise and learn some vocabulary connected with chocolate. These are the words we are going to use in this lesson. Which of the words in the word art do we use to describe the taste? Which words are used to describe chocolate production? And the last question, what's the difference between cocoa and cacao? If you are not sure of the answers, do an online research, and later on, check your answers with your virtual classroom teacher. Pause the recording and do the task. Now that we have revised and learned some chocolate vocabulary, let's write haiku poetry. How do we write haiku poems? The structure of a traditional haiku is always the same. There are only 3 lines totaling in 17 syllables. The first and the third line have 5 syllables and the second one 7. But if this is too difficult for you, just follow the rule of 3 lines. Haiku poems don't have to rhyme. And don't forget to use words connected with chocolate. You can see here some of the examples of chocolate haiku poems written by my students. Pause the recording and have fun writing your chocolate haiku poems. Do you know where chocolate comes from? When did it come to Europe and where? And did it always look the way it looks today? Well, this video will answer these questions and then some. Watch the video carefully because there is going to be a quiz afterwards. Scan the code or copy the bit.ly link Chocolate H. Pause the recording and watch the video. And as I have promised, here is the quiz about the history of chocolate. Just scan the code or copy the bit.ly link History CQ and do the quiz. Don't forget to pause the recording. I hope you did well at the quiz. In the next task, you're going to use what you have learned from the video about the history of chocolate. You're going to create a comic strip based on the history of chocolate. There are steps that you should follow when writing a comic strip. You should first think whether you want to tell the whole story about the history of chocolate or just a part of it. Plan each cell. Which characters do you want to include? What about the setting? And the dialogue? Well, you shouldn't put too much text in the cell. 2 to 3 speech balloons is enough, and maybe a caption. You shouldn't overdo with the text. You can design a digital comic strip with the help of Pixton, or you can draw one. You can see both versions here. If you decide to draw your comic, don't worry, you don't have to be very artistic to create a great comic strip. You can use Matchstick Men and still create a great comic strip. Pause the recording and get started. I hope you had fun with the previous activity. Our next task is connected with chocolate production. You're going to read an article about how we can get from a cocoa bean to a chocolate bar. It is a pretty long process and there are several steps involved, as you can see. Can you guess the right order? Pause the recording here and order the steps in chocolate making process. Now read the article and check your guesses. I'm sure you did great. Also, while reading, make notes on each step because you're going to need these notes in your next task. Copy the bit.ly link bean to bar C or scan the code. You can pause the recording now and do the task. You're going to design an infographic based on the notes you made. When designing your infographic, keep it simple. Name all the 7 steps and write some basic notes which you will explain in your oral presentation later on. The infographic should give only the basic information. It should be easy to read and understand. And use images and icons to make it more informative. Once you have created your infographic, you will work on your narration. Your presentation is going to be divided into 3 parts: introduction, the body, and conclusion. Here are some phrases you can use to introduce the topic, talk about the process of chocolate making, and sum up your talk. Pause the recording and do the task. Once you're done with the task, use this checklist to see if you have done everything planned. We all love chocolate, and it's very difficult to think about chocolate in a negative way. But there are some issues that I would like to cover with you. Let's start with a question. Who are the people involved in chocolate making? What do you think? You probably knew the answer. Farmers are the ones who produce the cocoa beans, chocolate companies make the chocolate, and chocolate retailers sell it. They are all important. They all play an important role in getting chocolate to us, the consumers. My question to you is, what do they do? Think of all the things they have to do in order to get chocolate to us, the consumers. Pause the recording and write notes. A lot of work is put into chocolate production. Farmers have to plant the cacao trees, look after them, pick the pods, take out the beans, ferment them, and in the end dry them before selling the beans to chocolate companies. Chocolate companies are also very busy. After buying the beans and transporting them, They have to clean and process them. Add different ingredients before molding the chocolate and wrapping it. As for chocolate retailers, what they do is order the chocolate, put a price on it, and then put chocolate bars on the shelves. How long does it take them to do the work? What do you think? Guess. You probably guessed that it takes the farmers the longest to do their work, half a year. It takes companies 24 days to get the final product, and only 2 days for the retailers to do their part. Bearing in mind the effort and the time they have to put into their work, who do you think earns the most? If we had to pay them in chocolate squares, this is what it would look like. Chocolate companies and retailers earn 4 squares of chocolate and farmers only half a square. It doesn't seem fair, does it? You're going to watch a video about ethical, sustainable chocolate, and while watching the video, you're going to make notes on fair trade chocolate and on traditional chocolate. Copy the bit.ly link Ethical Chocolate Matters or scan the code and make notes. You can pause the recording here. Only 5% of chocolate is fair trade chocolate. What does fair trade mean? It means that farmers are members of cooperatives, which really helps them a lot. The price of chocolate is fair, they get trained, and money is put into their land, social programs, and their future. As for conventional chocolate, the one we mostly consume, farmers are paid very little. Most of the money is given to middlemen. And worst of all, children are forced to work on plantations. This leaves a bitter taste in one's mouth, doesn't it? What can we do about it? We can buy fair trade chocolate, and if there is no fair trade chocolate in our shops, we can ask them to get it. We can make our family and friends aware of fair trade and the importance of changing our habits. We all love chocolate, but it shouldn't be on other people's expense. And your last activity. Which 3 things have you learned today? What are the 2 things you would like to learn more about? And what is the one question you still have? Send your answers to your virtual classroom teacher. This is all for today. Till next time, goodbye.